So it's 2023, and I'm developing an app in my spare time as I go to school. And I'm dreaming of such massive things, right? When I launch it, I'm going to become so successful. I'm going to be like Tony Stark. I'm going to be so rich, all these things. And dream as much as you want to, but there has to be some sort of justification for it. And let's be real, you probably experienced this too, where you thought that just because you're developing something and others are not, that you are in some way better than everyone else, right? So let's discover the solo software developer ego effect. The phenomenon's symptoms are quite interesting. So first of all, and the primary thing that happens is that you work based off of dreams. Now, what does that mean? So I was developing an app based off of a dream that I had in my mind and a goal. Well, a goal is actually a dream with a deadline. I didn't have that. I actually just had no concrete plan or no concrete deadlines, no concrete like due dates or anything like that that I would time myself to. I was just purely working off of dreams and then hoping to eventually accomplish it in the future. And naturally, because of this, I postponed when I would launch it. And this app, by the way, was like this kind of social media kind of thing. So I wanted to replicate something like YouTube, but a little bit different with its own twist. So I just continued delaying it as I developed it. And so I went from thinking about how can I set up this database, how can I ensure that users can use it, to thinking about, you know what, this pop-up style, I don't actually like how this pop-up is stylized. I should add more HTML or more CSS to it. And then figuring out the animations and all this stuff, like it's complete excess that eventually led me to postponing it, and working off of dreams and no actual deadline, no actual plan. And then the next symptom is a sense of superiority, which is a fairly obvious symptom, but it actually is due to the environment around you. And so what I would have is that no one around me, like in school and all of my social circles, would not actually be developing anything like on the side, like this side project that they had ambitions about. And so I naturally felt like, oh, it must mean that I'm just like the exclusion, the exception, the great the God amongst men. That is the phenomenon, like the environment that I was in, that caused me to have a sense of superiority. Now, like actually being proud of yourself for working for like on something is completely different than like, you know, just thinking that, which is this symptom over here, is that you don't actually have anything to back it up with concretely other than just some kind of actions that you do, but no actual tangible results. If I'm doing that and I'm simultaneously making more money, or I don't know, having more users than God knows who, then okay, I have some standing ground there. But without that, I just have an empty sense of superiority that is just kind of clouding my judgment, if you understand what I'm trying to say. And then the next symptom is unreasonable hopes. And this relates back to what was said previously, is that I would immediately get a lot of users and it would become a success immediately. And that was the expectation. So in the first week when I launched it, I would get like 1,000 users out of absolutely nowhere. That was the idea. And that's an unreasonable hope. That's one of the phenomenon symptoms. Then, moving on, and this is fairly obvious, this is already kind of said implicitly, blindness to the rate of progress. So if I would actually look and I thought, right, am I actually progressing? Am I actually making it in my app's development? Well, not exactly, right? But I didn't really look at that and just continued developing and eventually kind of steered into the direction of like CSS and stylization when functionality must come first. And like, a pop-up's design is not going to matter as much as ensuring that a user's information is stored on a database properly and then they can actually use it and there's actually value from the site that they're using. Now, of course, having this phenomenon is not fatal, I think, because at least this phenomenon symptoms is not fatal, because I mean it wasn't that, I mean I didn't die, I just actually got out of that project knowing more, like having gotten more knowledge. But nonetheless, what we haven't touched on though are the common causes of such a phenomenon of ego. And there are two main causes, is that there is an excess of internet consumption, which is, I mean, pretty much for every human on the planet that is like 20 or under. But when you see the internet, when I saw the internet, I saw many like ideas of becoming super wealthy, becoming, or just like being a super genius, or like all these things would actually be very interesting to me to accomplish, and they still are. However, I had those kind of expectations that it would be possible to do that very quickly, very fast, very easy, And, or at least not very easy. I did anticipate that it would be hard, but the internet really glorified the idea of having like so much, so much stuff, like such a lifestyle, all this stuff, right? And who does not fall for that trap? Of course, this is a very common trap to fall into, of like believing the materialistic things that are shown on the internet. So we come to the conclusion that it is because of that phone. We come to the conclusion that it's because of that damn phone that you're watching all the time. And next symptom is being inexperienced as a developer. That's very common and simple, but that's still worth mentioning. So back then, I was actually only maybe 6 months into seriously learning, or like 7 months or eight, something like that, into seriously learning how to code. I would say even like mm, five, even. I don't know. But not really experienced in how it works, not really experienced in actually how to manage a long-term like project that you have to sit down, that you have to research it, all these things that you have to plan it, uh, and that measure your like set attainable goals and have like proper ways to measure how you're going, how you're progressing, all these things that I did not know, and so naturally being inexperienced would result in that, right? So that's a simple thing that happens if you're a developer. That I was just inexperienced, and granted, I am still now, but little more, enough not to believe that I can, get 24 karat gold in 24 hours, right? Now, as to how it can be cured, at least how I cured it. And so the easy way, I would say, is to sit down and understand, okay, probably at the rate that I'm going, my aims will be unattainable. And even maybe even if I speed up my rate to maximum, like fully lock in, that it would not even be possible then. So maybe I should just humble myself and actually learn the fundamentals, right? Like look at that common cause of that root cause of being inexperienced and fix that from the root. And also compare yourself not to the people around you in your immediate circle, but maybe look at, and when I use the word compare, people use the word compare as like, oh, you shouldn't compare yourself to other people. I'm not talking about that, but in the sense that you just look at other people's progress and like judge, are you doing well, that's how at least you would be able to measure, like it's relative, right? You would relatively compare yourself to someone and look, okay, they're at that rate of progression, I'm at this rate of progression, now I can more evaluate with another perspective as to how I'm going. And so you don't just look at the people around you who don't even know what JavaScript means and then just think, okay, yeah, I'm better than them or something like that. Just try to look for a different reference point. So either just don't use the people around you as a reference point at all, or use people from a different like place that actually know these things and compare yourself to their rate of progression, because then you would actually be able to evaluate your own position relative to them. The hard way though, which is the way I did it, which is not actually hard, nothing hard about it, but you know, so continue developing your project, and then, which is what I did, I eventually thought, you know what, I actually don't want to do it, and then I just stepped aside to a different project idea that I had, which was like building an AI system instead. So like the main reason I went for social media apps is because I actually like the idea of developing a recommendation algorithm, like building AI and all these things was very interesting to me. So I just thought maybe that would be a cool thing to do. And so I thought maybe directly, why not just go ahead straight away for the AI system itself? and then I would be able to satisfy that uh, interest. So you go through, at least I went through 6 months of developing and then jumped away from it. And then, like those 6 months, of course, I learned a lot. I developed a skill set, and I definitely don't think it was ever a waste of time. But it still is like a time that could have otherwise been spent developing something useful. And you know, you instead just swapped away from it, switched away from it, which is what I did. But in any case, when you're an inexperienced developer, I think that's exactly what should happen, is that you develop a project and then just leave it, develop another project, leave it, and this way you kind of learn to manage yourself in developing projects on your own, and you learn new like aspects of coding as well. There's web development, there's databases, there's, I don't know, for me it's even machine learning. And all these different facets you learn about, you step into slightly and become more of like a generalized, have a more generalized skill set way faster than others could have. At least that's what I think. But if you would like to continue with your project and actually build something that you're proud of, and instead of actually having to abandon it, then I suggest you try Stellar AI. It's an AI software development assistant that I designed for software developers like myself to be able to develop projects from start to finish in a more streamlined manner, where you define a project goal, you research your idea thoroughly, and then go step by step, developing like a plan of action steps and actual deadlines to go through the development process and finally reach a polished final app. And so you can sign up right now for free. If you don't want to, that's absolutely fine, but the link is in the description regardless. Thank you.